This is Obsidian ASMR. Don't forget to like, subscribe, and hit the notification bell for future videos. Hello, and welcome back to the final installment in our video game collection series. For now, it's been a pleasure making all of these for you and showing you my pretty extensive collection through the years. We started with the PS5 and worked our way through the generations: PS4, PS3, PS1, Xbox, Xbox One, Xbox 360, even handheld. And that leads us to today. This is going to be a mammoth episode of these video game collections. And what better way to draw them to a close for now than talking about the most successful console that has ever been created. Of course, we're talking about the PlayStation 2. I think for many of us, the PlayStation 2 is still the definitive console gaming experience. I believe it's the most sold console in history, and it definitely has the largest collection or number of games on that platform. I remember when it came out, there was a lot of buzz around it, and it didn't disappoint. Now did it? So with that being said, there will be a future update of like my PlayStation 5 and other console games in the future. But if you want more video game content and tingles, you're gonna have to let me know down in the comments below. And I do read them, and I do make videos that you request, as long as I can. So let's get into it. The first franchise I'm going to talk about is one that I've actually kept out of all the other collection videos. is Arsenal. In fact, you might catch me down at their stadium every so often. But what I haven't told you is I have played pretty much every version of FIFA since probably the World Cup '98 version on the PC. The series has evolved. The latest one is no longer actually FIFA. It's become EA FC 24, and it's a good game, not gonna lie. However, the franchise is well known for popularizing loot boxes in the form of the Ultimate Team game mode that they developed, which is basically taking the card game and turning it into a mode where you can spend money for packs, and you could potentially get amazing players. You could get bad ones. Most often it's bad. And that's a real stain on this franchise, in my opinion. They make billions off that game mode, as you would imagine. Football or soccer is my favourite sport. I played it, not very well, but I played it. I love watching it, and this series back here was surprisingly good for the time. So you had career mode, create your own player, and also like arcade versus or tournament modes. And the players were supposed to look like the real life players from across the world. I put more hours into these games than I care to mention. But of these, I have to say, this one is my favourite. And this one is the one I would always go back to play on the PlayStation 2. 04 was good. I didn't really get on with 06, nor did I with 07. And this was roughly where I didn't have as much enthusiasm for the sport as I was growing up. My team wasn't doing very well. I might be a bit of a sore loser. So, it is what it is. But then they also brought out FIFA Street and FIFA Street 2, which are taking the FIFA game and focusing more on skills and, you know, trick styles. And this has now been incorporated into the main game series as Volta will say it's not as good as FIFA Street. It's also a bit of a relic when you consider the EA big brand that was used for extreme sports or unconventional sports. FIFA Street 2 didn't really add that much onto FIFA Street, but it didn't do much bad. You know, there's Cristiano. So, I would give the series here, I'd give these all like a 6 or a 7. This one, I don't know why, but this one I put hours into, and I'd probably give this an, let's say, a 9 out of 10. FIFA Street 2, I'd give a 7. And FIFA Street, I would give an 8. So, the next load of games that we have, you guessed it, and I do love a bit of cross-selling, I guess. If you're a fan of Dragon Ball Z, and you're also a fan of video games, then this is the channel for you. I'm whispering through all of Dragon Ball Z at the minute, and I fully intend to do Dragon Ball Super, Dragon Ball GT, and the original Dragon Ball. But for now, we're talking about these games. So, let's start at the start. Budokai was a bit rough and ready. It was the first, I think, PS2 Dragon Ball game, and it included story mode, dual, world match, and also the ability to edit skills. What I remember about Budokai is there wasn't a very big selection of characters, from what I remember. Yeah. So, if you look there aren't that many. And I remember that Zarbon is one, Dodoria is one, Raditz, Nappa, the Saiyans, pretty sure Cell is in there. And I think maybe Majin Buu. But then again, I also think that this doesn't go that far, dare I say. I'm pretty sure the story mode finishes with Gohan versus Perfect Cell, and then it doesn't go any further. does have Hercule, or Mr. Satan, and the Great Sailorman, who are obviously after the Cell Saga. And this game was released in 1997, so that might be why. I'm not sure. Then came Budokai 2 with Fusion, Potara, and Martian Boo. They expanded the list of characters available in this one. And honestly, the game wasn't that bad. The story mode was pretty good, where you would choose one of a set number of characters, and you'd have to level them up, and then play through their stories. What I will say is I never quite completed this one, because the story mode you were like on a board game, you know, and your character counter would move across the board, and I think you had to beat the other, like, villain to certain objectives on the board game, like, setting. And truth be told, the reason why I didn't play much of this is because I already had this. So, if you've watched some of my other collections, most notably the Xbox 360 one, you'll note that I had a HD remaster of this and Budokai. In my humble opinion, Budokai 3 is one of, if not the best Dragon Ball Z games that has ever been made. The graphics are, I think, iconic. The way that the characters have kind of like thick black outlines. But, oh my, there were so many characters to unlock here. Over 40, including Broly, Cooler, Super Saiyan 4, Goku, and Vegeta, and Gogeta, Omega Shenron, the lot. The story mode has you flying around the globe, and there are opportunities to find hidden encounters like Broly or Cooler at certain points of the story. But yet, it is ultimately a side-scroller fighting game. You have transformations. It is a bit of a button masher combo style thing. There was something called, I think, Dragon Rush or Z Rush in this, which was like, if you hit your opponent flying backwards, you had to guess the box, square, circle, or triangle. I put a lot of hours into this as a kid. And funnily enough, it was one of the first, I think the first, Dragon Ball Z game that I picked up. I remember seeing it at my local supermarket and pestering my dad to buy it for me, which he did. Thank you, Dad. And this was released in 2004. I'll say it now. I love the design of Super Saiyan 4. I think it's the most impressive and imposing of the transformations. So, think of that what you will. Then came Budokai Tenkaichi. This changed things up a little bit, because whereas before it was very much 3D, but the camera was set side to side, here you had total free roam and 3D camera angles, which at the time I didn't enjoy. Now, having played Xenoverse, Xenoverse 2, Ultimate Tenkaichi, and others, I think I would get more out of this game than I did. So, what would I give these? I think Budokai 2, I'd give it a 6. I think what I would say about that is if the HD remaster didn't have the trilogy, there's probably a reason for it. And I think it's the weakest out of the Budokai trilogy, in my opinion. At the time, Tenkaichi was a bit strange for me when I was younger, and it came out in 2005. I don't know. Young Obsidian didn't really get on well with this, so I'd probably give this I'd probably give it a 6 as well. And I know that a lot of the fan base think Budokai Tenkaichi 3 was the best. So, comment if you like this below. Budokai, I think I would give this an 8, because it's the game that started the series off, and I think is still well loved by the fan base. A bit rough around the edges now, but still good. And then this, for me, it has to be a 10. Before recent games like Xenoverse and Xenoverse 2 and Kakarot, etc., I would be saying, play this before you play any others. And I'd probably still say it to this day. So, 10 out of 10. Let's see what we've got next. Okay, so the next one is just a standalone, which is Family Guy, the video game, Too Hot for TV. And this was very similar to another game that I had, which was Futurama. Now they're not necessarily the same, but there's very similar premises to both of them. You play as the main characters of both series in various missions. And honestly, I like both of these games. They were fun, they were funny, and they were very on-brand with both TV series. In fact, I kind of wish they'd remaster the Futurama game, and they'd do a sequel to Family Guy. I didn't complete either of them, but I had a good time playing both. On balance, I think I prefer Futurama, but that's just because I'm kind of more of a fan of Futurama as a series. I grew up watching it, so I have a bit of a soft spot for it. Whereas Family Guy, I've got nothing against it. I think it's quite funny, but I'm not sure whether it's my favourite. You know, another series that I absolutely love was South Park. And you heard in my PlayStation 4 video game collection how much I liked the fractured butthole. So I think I'd give Family Guy let's say an 8. It was good. It's very funny. I know. And the graphics are pretty good. The gameplay's varied as well. And then, personally for me, Fry, Leela, Bender, Zoidberg, and good news, everyone, Professor Farnsworth. That's my kind of stuff. Yeah. This one was my favourite, I think. So I'd give this a 9 out of 10. Now we move on to my favourite racing series, and that is Burnout by Criterion Games. Now the first one is just a racing game. Graphics are fine, nothing special. There is vehicle damage, and the whole point is to drive in a more aggressive way to earn burnout, which is like nitros or nitro boosts 1998 game. And it was a breath of fresh air for the racing genre, which at the time was like Gran Turismo, Colin McRae Rally, that kind of stuff. But this added a bit of kind of angst and, captured the cultural zeitgeist at the time. I'd probably give this a 7. Then these two, I'll do this one first. Burnout Revenge. Graphics are much better. It was released in 2005, and it built a lot on what Burnout 3 did. Honestly, I don't think this was very memorable, and it's often forgotten compared to Burnout 3 or Burnout Paradise, which was the following game, or the successor to Revenge. But yeah, it did the same thing. It was fine, just not very memorable. So I'd give this a 7 as well. But this one, this was seismic at the time. Still got a 10 out of 10 from PlayStation Weekly sticker on there. This was the PlayStation 2 version of Burnout Paradise, and a lot of the core themes from Burnout Paradise are seen here. Create chaos in car junctions or crash junctions. Take down your rivals. Play online and unlock more cars. And you do that by taking down or crashing into an opponent, along with being the best driver. My brother and I played this so much when we were kids, and I think a lot of people around the time remember this one. I liked it so much that I went and found the opening track from the game, which is Lazy Generation. It just, again, it encapsulated that rebellious counterculture that was present in the late 90s, early 2000s, and that was spearheaded by like pop punk, edgy music with guitars that hit you in the face when you put the music on. This was released in 2004. It's really, really good. So quite like PlayStation Weekly, I'd give this a 10 out of 10. And if you haven't, go play it. Another driving game that everybody wanted to play back in the day. There was Crazy Taxi. Now, arcades. You'd find full-blown arcade machines with Crazy Taxi, but they did import it into the PlayStation because at this time Sega had stopped producing, or were about to stop producing, their own consoles and stick to game development. It's okay. I got gifted this, but it was never... I felt like this was the kind of bootleg version, or less polished version of Burnout 3. Yeah, it had that same kind of vibe with The Offspring and Bad Religion featuring on the playlist. But effectively it was just go there, pick this person up, drop them off, go there, pick this person up, drop them off, do it as quickly as you can. And it's fine, but it gets a bit repetitive after a while. So what I'd say with that is, or with that in mind, is it fun? I'd probably give it like a 6 out of 10. I know some people really love this, but for me, it was a nice gift, but not my cup of tea. Get it? Because I'm British. Next up, we've got Destroy All Humans and Destroy All Humans 2. Make war, not love. That's just the tagline. It's not actually the subtitle. So, you play as a Furon by the name of... God, what's his name? Crypto. That's it. And basically, you are terrorizing 1950s and 1960s USA and UK. Although the second one is more global. You have to harvest DNA from the humans to unlock more Furon traits, because I believe the storyline is your home world has been destroyed and you are a clone, one of many, or the latest in a long line, and your job is to rebuild the Furon Empire. But you need more genetic material to do so. These two games were very good, very tightly made, and by Pandemic, Havoc, and all the others, THQ. Very well crafted, funny, challenging, or they could be. Very fresh and original, which is welcome. It was welcome then, and it would be even greater if people started to make more original concepts rather than just a sequel here another sequel. And guess what? There was a prequel between the prequel and the original game. How amazing. Do you agree with that? I just find there's not many original ideas out there anymore, which is a shame. Both of these games were so popular that they have received remasters, both on the PlayStation 4, and I believe Destroy All Humans 2 is also available on the PlayStation 5. I have to say, I remember the marketing campaigns for both of these games, especially this one, which came out in 2005, and I believe this was 2006, yeah. They made it pretty quickly. What can I say? Iconic game, iconic series. It did fall a little bit off a cliff during the PS3, but these two are still well loved. For me, I'd probably give this a 9 out of 10. I'd give this an 8 out of 10. As you can probably tell, the PlayStation 2, apologies, is full of bangers. Okay, so we're coming to the end, but I do have a couple more to talk about. Call of Duty 2 and Call of Duty 3. I'm also going to say, somewhere I have Call of Duty. So, yeah, I've got the original 3, but only 2 here. I just couldn't find it. At the time, there was one franchise that I'll talk about in part 2, called Medal of Honor, and it was the biggest, the most recognizable, the flagship war series, FPS, World War II shooter. And whilst there were other versions, such as the Conflict series on Xbox, nothing could topple Medal of Honor until Call of Duty came along, developed by Activision. Yeah, I think I've told you my thoughts on Call of Duty 3, which was near the end of the PlayStation 2's life cycle. And actually, it was also on the PlayStation 3. So 2006 and 2005, Call of Duty 2 came out. Very solid, as you would expect. Very good games, compelling stories. At this point, pretty good online functionality, but nothing like it would become. Within a couple of years, Medal of Honor as a franchise was done. Pretty much. And it's all thanks to Call of Duty. I have to say, I look back at these now, and these are all made by Treyarch. I think the first 5, maybe 6, including Modern Warfare, World at War, and Modern Warfare 2, were my favourites. But I do love a good World War II shooter, and I think it's important, without delving too far into the political sphere, that we remember why war is abhorrent, and we should, do everything that we can to avoid it. And stories such as this really go to illustrate the humanity behind it, and also how harrowing it can be. So, I'd give Call of Duty 2, Big Red 1. I'd probably give that a 7. And I would give Call of Duty 3 an 8. And Call of Duty 1, which is not here, but I do have a 9 out of 10. Second to last, we have Crash Bandicoot, The Wrath of Cortex, and Crash Nitro Kart. Oh boy. So, I was a big Crash Bandicoot fan. Pretty much everything on the PlayStation 1. But there was a problem, which was Naughty Dog had a contract to deliver four PS1 games for Crash Bandicoot. They'd done that, and then they walked away to develop another series that I never played, called Jak and Daxter. The problem was, Crash Bandicoot was very, very, very popular, and that left a void in the market. So, instead of offering Naughty Dog more money or a better deal, Universal Interactive Studios decided to just use the IP and get other people or studios to develop games for them. We saw it with Crash Bash, which I liked, but a lot of people didn't. And then came these two. I wanted to like this. I really did. But I couldn't. It was difficult, as in the controls were difficult. like a Crash game. It felt more like a bunch of gimmicks put into a Crash game, and they tried to move him away from a platformer into just a generic kind of hero, and it didn't work. They kept the same level format, where you have to go into areas and then portals to the levels, like in Crash Bandicoot 2. And the voice cast was quite good. I think one of the masks is voiced by Mark Hamill, or Luke Skywalker. The storyline was not good. And you'd have these new style of boss battle, where effectively these other masks that represented earth, wind, water, and fire, so the elements, would be used by Dr. Neo Cortex's latest creation, Crunch Bandicoot. Yeah, the character models were off. The story was a bit... it just didn't feel like Crash Bandicoot, and it gets a lot of stick from the fan base. It really does. So, I wanted it to be better. I really did as a child, because I was loyal to the brand. But I'd have to give this no more really than a 6. Maybe even a 5. Let's go with a 5. And then they added in Crash Nitro Kart, which was a PlayStation 2 version of Crash Team Racing. Basically a rehash. It was fine. It was just basically the attempt to turn this into Mario Kart, but with Crash. And some dude called Emperor Velo, as in like Velocity. I wouldn't say this was as good as people made it out to be, and the reviews made it out to be. Honestly, I'd prefer to go and play Crash Team Racing with nitrous oxide. Again, I'd give it a 5. It was clear at this point with these character models that the franchise was dying, and there were a couple more games after this, like Twinsanity, but yeah, he never really went back to the platforming until Crash Bandicoot 4 for the PlayStation 4, which was very good. So yeah, a 5 for that as well. And then, finally, we get on to a whole lot of Grand Theft Auto. And these are the ones I remember vividly and wanted to play through in their entirety. So, let's start at the start. Grand Theft Auto 3. The one where you play as... It's not Tommy Vercetti, it's Cloud. Or Claude, isn't it? And Catalina. Set in the iconic Liberty City, which would be used twice more, based on New York, of course. This is the first time that Grand Theft Auto became a sandbox and 3D, and it was very, very good for the time. I can't quite remember the story, but it was a solid entry. I just think that the subsequent games really built on this. And I'm going to talk about those more. But I would give this a 8 out of 10. It's quite difficult to go back and play now. And the kind of user interface is a little bit buggy, but at the time it must have been mind-blowing. And it created a juggernaut. These two are often the benchmark that most games are compared to in this franchise. And usually you find people are a fan of Vice City or San Andreas. Usually one is the preferred. So Vice City, which is kind of based off of Miami, Florida, in the 80s. You play as Tommy Vercetti, and you work your way up through the city with the help of individuals that I forgot the name of. I don't remember too many of the characters in this. And I could be wrong, but I'm pretty sure he partners up with this guy. Yeah, Vic Vance. That's his name. You partner up with him, but I'm pretty sure he betrays you near the end of the game, once you've taken over the criminal empire. Vice City was great because, again, it built on Grand Theft Auto 3, polished it, the cutscenes were better, the gameplay was just tighter, and the storyline was very compelling for a lot of people. I don't think it was my favourite, but there is a very good reason for that. I think I have to give it a 9 out of 10, just because it is the benchmark. Or one of. This is the benchmark. And I can name you the characters from this because I played it a lot. That's the truth. You've got the Grove Street Gang, the ballers, the ballers. Then you got some others that are like yellow and blue, but I forget what they are. Not as deep as the ballers. You play as CJ, Ocala, Samuel Johnson. And basically, I think your mother's killed, so you come back to deal with it. But there's this massive plot that unfolds, including people like Big Smoke, Ryder, Officer Tenpenny, who's voiced by Samuel L. Jackson, and set in the 90s in San Andreas, based off of Compton. And a lot of the characters took inspiration from the NWA and the rap scene that was there at the time, and the purported gang violence. Yeah. There's some really iconic lines and memes that have come out of this game, and I think this is still viewed as the yardstick for the Grand Theft Auto series. The storyline was just so good. So good. And it even featured cameos by Claude and Katarina during one car racing mission near the west of the map. And as you can imagine, Claude is very difficult to defeat. This is my favourite. And I wouldn't be surprised if it was your favourite too. And what I would say is, this is a 10 out of 10. No questions asked. If you're going to play the PlayStation 2, you should play this. And something else, just by the way, is you can actually get this game on the iPad, which is crazy. But a couple of years ago, I was replaying it on there, and honestly, some of the quotes, like, when you're being shot at by the ballers, and you're going through the drive-thru, and Smoke's like, I want a number 9, 2 number 7s, 6 number 9s, or 6 number 21s, or whatever it is. It makes this massive order. And then you're driving off being shot at by the ballers, or ballers, or whatever. And they're going, smoke, shoot. And he's in the back saying, like, I can't, I'm eating. That and the mission where you're supposed to land on this train on a dirt bike, and if you fail it, Smoke's like, you're supposed to follow the damn train, CJ. And yeah, there's just so many good quotes. It's such a good game. And for that, perfect 10. If I could give it 11, I would. Then comes the stand-ins. Liberty City Stories and Vice City Stories. So, I don't remember too much about Liberty City Stories other than you play as Tony Cipriani. And again, it's another mob story. I didn't get too into playing that one for some reason. But I did play Vice City Stories, and I got that wrong earlier. The guy that betrays you is not Vic Vance. That's this guy, who's markedly similar to CJ. San Andreas. I think they used a very similar character model, but no, it's Lance Vance. But I remember this being really good, and actually made me appreciate Vice City more by playing this. I'm not kidding, that character model is very, very similar, and then again, like, Tony Cipriani's is seemingly like a cross between Tommy Vercetti and Claude. I'd say more like Tommy Vercetti. But anyway, this was very good. And it was nice to see Vice City kind of updated. Same with Liberty City. But because I think I can remember the story of this more, I'd probably give this an 8, and this is 7. There was another game that I had at this time that I was playing and was kind of like a mafia game, but we'll talk about that next time. So, that is part 1 of this colossal PlayStation 2 video game series, and I wanted to thank you for making it this far. And if you have, and you like the content, why not hit that like button, drop a comment below, and if you would be so kind, consider subscribing, as we are on the road to 1,000 subscribers, which is crazy to me. If you do comment, and a lot of you do, I always try to get back to you as soon as I can. You take the time and the effort to write those comments. It's the least I could do. To comment back and show my appreciation for you. And trust me, I do appreciate it. So, with that being said, on Tuesday we'll have a Halloween special, and I hope that each and every one of you is having a wonderful and restful weekend. Thank you all so much for your support, and all of your kind words, and choosing to spend your time with me on our channel. And with that, there's only one thing left for me to say. So, as always, take care of yourselves.